Friends, really, in a significant sense, it's not about where you shoot someone, it's why. Today's video is brought to you by the generosity of Newbold targets. Newbold targets are self-sealing, reactive polymer targets that act like steel targets for training and practice, but are safer than steel. They allow bullets to pass completely through the target without ricochet or lead splatter. Check out their links in the description and thank them for bringing us today's video. Hi everyone, this is John with today's active self-protection lesson out of Albuquerque, New Mexico in the USA. Here we're going to see badge cam of an officer-involved shooting that's going to teach us a whole bunch of lessons. So we have plenty of audio here, and I want you to pay attention to the pace that the officer shoots at in this first instance, where this guy has robbed a bunch of Verizons and now he's shooting at the cops. So this officer is going to respond. Let's listen into what he does here. Now, when he sees that's not going to stop the threat, I've sped it up just for the sake of time. That officer is going to get back in the car and chase this guy. And on this chase, they said that this guy ran through at least 2 magazines worth of ammo. He reloaded. Now, you notice the officer here thinks about putting more shots on him, decides not to do that there, doesn't have the shot that he wants. So now he's going to go and pit this guy. Let's listen in again so that we get to hear what happens.
Albuquerque, please stop! Stop or you're gonna get shot! Don't move! Don't move! Let me see your hand! Put your hands out! Hands out at your sides! Hands out at your sides! Got your gun! Got your gun!
Yeah. Okay?
Yeah, I'm clear. I'm good. Good.
Frank, you do 6 City. We need 4355 to the Smith.
Hey, you're...
Shots are fired. Subject was shot multiple times.
Thanks, brother.
Subject shot multiple times, 10-443.
You got a gun still?
You guys have a
Yeah, I got a chest seal. Anybody got gloves? I got a chest seal. Huh?
Was there 2 or 3?
2 what?
How many people were in there?
2, female.
Okay, we have her in custody.
Okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
34s are 10-4. One subject down.
I'm turning my camera off.
Friends, in this one, I have a poll question for you. Do you think that badge cams have been a net gain for law enforcement in the United States, or have they shown more bad cop actions than good? We're going to put a poll up here and make sure that you hit that sucker. Let us know what you think. I will tell you that myself, I think that by far they have shown that most police actions are good and justified and actually above and beyond the call of duty. Out of this particular one, I want to think about some significant lessons about how an officer or a private citizen can use the correct rate of fire and the correct timing in order to get the right hits that they need. I also want to think about the legal and moral aspects of using deadly force, in particular when someone has objective, reasonable belief of a deadly threat. And then we want to talk about marksmanship under stress and duress. Boy, crazy stuff all around. First thing I want to think about here is the officer's cadence. So you can see this first one, these shots are at about 25 yards. Now again, this guy has robbed a bunch of people. He has shot a bunch, at the cops a whole bunch. So certainly justified to use deadly force against him, and the officer's going to get out. And I want you to notice his cadence of fire. He's going to get out here, get a great firing grip, put a shot on target right here, and now his next one's not going to come for another full second, and then he's going to think again, another about 1.3. This officer is shooting in a very measured fashion. Tom Givens teaches us that we, at close targets, we have to shoot quickly, and medium targets, we shoot carefully, and at longer range targets, we shoot precisely. And that's what we see this officer doing here, shooting precisely. It's a long way away. You can see the van in the V there of the car door, and that's at a good 25 yards, friends. And putting shots inside that cab at that kind of distance is definitely a precise shot. And at 25 yards, he's taken 1 to 1.3 to really get a good aim and a great trigger press press. He has great grip on the gun. And that shows real professionalism because he is putting those shots where they belong. So he's not putting them into the backstop and he's not missing his targets. He's putting them where he wants to. And when it's not the right time anymore, he gets back in the car and stops firing. Excellent there that we got to learn. This is why applied fundamentals of marksmanship is so important. Now notice he gets out here and he thinks about it, but he decides in that moment not to. You know, there's a passenger in that van. We don't know exactly how much, at least he didn't in that moment. Is she involved or is she a bystander? Is she a hostage? And so he doesn't have a good shot to stop that here, and it's moving left to right on him, and so he decides not to take it. It's just as important as knowing when to shoot, as knowing that, you know what, this isn't a good shot, and I can't practice the rules of firearm safety here, and so I'm not going to shoot. And knowing when not to pull the trigger and when it's not, it's not going to do any good is important as well. So he puts the gun away and gets back in the car. I think that that's incredibly commendable and something that we don't practice very much. When we go to the range, we just practice shoot, shoot, shoot instead of don't shoot because you don't have the kind of sight picture you need. Now this is kind of neat. Pursuit intervention technique there. We're not going to talk about the way the cops do things, but he sure did a good job of stopping that van that was a danger to everyone. Now as he's running off against this guy, I want to think about the objective, reasonable evidence of a deadly threat. So now in the end of things, this guy didn't have a firearm in his hand. And so the headlines read, police officer shoots man who is running away who is unarmed. But you know what? We got to think about the totality of the circumstances here to think about the objective, reasonable standard of a deadly threat. Number one, was this guy shooting at people? Yes, he was a violent armed robber and he shot more than a magazine full of ammo out of his gun at the cops while he was running. Number two, he was saying, if you heard him while he was running, I have a gun, I have a gun, I have a gun. So did the officer have an objective, reasonable belief that this guy was armed and he was running into this Smith's Groceries and that he could have done grievous bodily harm or death to people? Absolutely. So that meets the standard of an immediate deadly threat. And if you go and read the Supreme Court Graham versus Connor decision, that objective, reasonable threat, an officer can absolutely shoot someone who is a fleeing felon in these kind of conditions so that he can protect the public. That is absolutely what Graham versus Connor said. So the officer gets his gun out. Now we got to think about marksmanship again because now he's not at 25 yards. He is at about 7 yards here. And this 7-yard shot is a guy who's quartering away from him and who is going, he's going away and to our officer's left and to our left on screen at about 7 yards. But this officer clearly has some significant firearms training because his shots at this point are about 0.16 splits. So his first one there you can see on target, second one going to get him as well. Third one, he's going after the guy in 0.16 splits. This is happening in just very split seconds. And of course, we're getting to see it slow down because of the magic of video editing software. And now he finally stops. Those 6 shots that he shot in a second's time. Bang, 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 bang. And now once he sees the guy's hands, he stops shooting. That's exactly right. You notice how fast he was going, that he was able to get good, accurate shots on target with incredibly fast splits. And that evidences to me a very high level of automaticity, a very high level of training. And then he stopped when the threat had stopped. That's exactly what we say. We're not shooting to necessarily kill somebody, but to stop them from being a threat to us and those around us. Excellent work there. Now, the other officer buddy who comes in here to put that guy in cuffs, you can notice in the bottom left there, that he actually missed his holster. Now, it's a stressful situation. He's trying to get this guy in cuffs. There's other people with deadly force on him. But I think that's great that our officer had a presence of mind to see in the moment, oh, he dropped his gun. I'm going to secure it so that it doesn't go away because stuff runs away and hides in a hurry. Now, these officers are going to get him in cuffs, and now they're going to start first aid. Man, I think this is incredibly valiant of them to try to save this guy's life who's literally just tried to kill them. This is why I respect law enforcement officers so much. They protected the public here, did what they had to do, highly trained cops, and they did everything they could to save this guy's life who literally just tried to kill them. Now, I think it's great. He gives this cop who had lost his gun back. And now he has to get out of there and start dealing with the emotional aftermath of deadly force. Unfortunately, it's just unfortunate that this guy wasn't stopped sooner. He had to be shot multiple times. He did not make it. So I think this officer should absolutely be commended. I think he should get a medal. He did a fantastic job. He did everything right, knew how to shoot at long distance and at close distance quickly, ended the threat, did what he had to do, and he protected everyone in his community and covered his asp.